I never thought I'd find myself sitting here, typing out a story about betrayal, but here I am. It all started about a year ago during our annual family vacation, the one we'd been planning for months. We rented this remote cabin nestled in the woods, a quiet place that was supposed to be just us, a break from the chaos of everyday life. The kind of place where you'd think everything was safe and predictable, but it was. Not anymore. My wife Lisa and I have been together for over 10 years. She's smart, beautiful, charming, the kind of woman everyone notices. I've always believed she loved me, or at least I did. We had a routine, a rhythm. She'd work her job, I'd work mine, and on weekends we'd cook dinner, binge-watch shows, and pretend life was simple. But beneath that veneer, I guess I was blind to the cracks. The trip started off normally. We packed our bags, loaded up the car, and left town after her insisting we deserve a break. The first few days, everything seemed fine. Lisa was in her usual good mood, joking, teasing. That's what made what came next hit me like a punch in the gut. We decided to go for a walk one late afternoon, just the two of us exploring the woods. I remember the way the sun peeked through the pines, the smell of pine needles and fresh earth filling my lungs. We'd been talking about everything and nothing when suddenly her phone buzzed in her pocket. She hesitated for a split second before pulling it out. "Who's texting you this late?" I asked, leaning in slightly. She looked nervous. "No one, just a work thing." "Nothing important." She waved it off with a smile, but her hands trembled. I saw the screen flash, then she quickly shut the message. That's when I caught a glimpse of the notification, a message from someone named Mike. No, not just a name. The name of my best friend, Mike. I froze. My stomach twisted, a strange coldness creeping up my spine. I should have asked more, but I didn't. Instead, I brushed it off, telling myself it was probably something innocuous. Maybe work stuff, maybe a joke. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Back home, I started noticing little things. Shirt in the laundry that wasn't ours. A deodorant I didn't recognize in the bathroom cabinet. An odd smell in her perfume, something unfamiliar. I kept telling myself I was overthinking, that I was paranoid. But the doubt gnawed at me. Then came the moment that shattered everything. I was at work one afternoon and I got a message, not from her, but from my wife's phone. A message from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it expecting some mundane reply, but what I saw made my blood run cold. It was a photo. A photo of Lisa, her face flushed, tangled in sheets, her hair messy, standing next to her Mike. They were in a bed and I could see the edge of a blanket, the disheveled sheets, the unmistakable signs that something had happened. The caption, "Last summer, our secret stays ours." My hands went numb. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might vomit. I stared at that message, then at my phone. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. All the lies, the smiles, the false sense of security, it was all a lie. My wife had been lying to me about everything. About her feelings, about the people she's been with, about the life I thought we had. I scrolled through her messages, her calls. I saw the gaps, the times she was supposedly busy or working late while she was with him. The pieces clicked into place. That trip, the hints I ignored, the tiny red flags I dismissed, they all pointed to one thing. She'd been lying from the start. I felt my fists clench so tight my knuckles ached. My head buzzed. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to shake Mike. But I knew I had to keep calm, I had to plan. Because now I finally knew the truth, and I was furious. That's when I started formulating what I thought was my next move. But first I needed to see her face. I needed her to hear me. And I needed her to understand that I wasn't the kind of guy who'd let this slide. Not even close. I looked around the cabin, trying to breathe through the rage bubbling inside me. I saw her stuff on the bed, her perfume, her jewelry, all confirmation that she'd been lying in my bed with him while I was clueless. Now I needed to decide, how do I confront her? Do I just leave? Or do I make her regret every lie she ever told? That's when I realized I'd be the one to make her pay. But how? That's what I was about to find out. If you want me to continue with the next part, just say so. I stayed up all night after I found out, staring at my phone, trying to think through my next move. The whole thing felt like a punch to the gut, but strangely, underneath the shock, I was seething. I'd been blindsided by her betrayal, but now I saw an opening for revenge. Not the childish kind, not something I'd regret later. I wanted her to feel what I felt, to see her realize what she'd lost. The first thing I did was gather all the evidence. I took screenshots of that message, saved the photos she'd sent, and looked through her phone for any more clues. I wanted to be thorough. I knew if I was going to pull this off, I'd need proof that she couldn't deny. That meant digging into her messages, her call logs, everything. What really pissed me off was how she lied so smoothly before. She always had a reason, a smile, an explanation. But now I saw her for what she was, a woman who'd been hiding a whole other life. I kept thinking about the moments I'd missed, the subtle signs I ignored, her sudden phone calls, her secretive texts, the way she'd brush past me when I asked about her day. All of it was right there. She'd been lying to my face for months. One thing I noticed was how sloppy she'd been. She'd been careless, leaving behind little traces. Her perfume on our sheets, a receipt from a hotel she'd booked with Mike, hidden in her email drafts. It was almost comical how obvious it all was in hindsight. She thought she was so clever, but she just made it easier for me to catch her. By dawn, I made a plan. A simple, cold, calculated plan. I'd make her believe everything was fine, let her think I didn't know. Then I'd strike. I was going to confront her in a way that would crush her, make her realize that her lies had consequences. I wanted her to feel the same betrayal I'd felt, to see her face when she knew I knew everything. But I had to be smart. No yelling, no accusations yet. I needed to set things up so she'd be caught off guard. I started with a fake email, pretending to be someone else, reaching out to her with a confession about knowing her secret. I wanted her to think I'd learned everything from someone else, that I was onto her. That way I'd be able to see her reaction, gauge her guilt. It was about control. I wanted her to panic, to realize the game was up. I sent her a message. I know what you did last summer. Don't try to deny it. We need to talk. I watched her phone, waiting for a reaction. She responded quickly, trying to act innocent, asking what I was talking about. That's when I knew I had her hooked. My plan was to set up one more confrontation, but this time face to face. I'd tell her I'd been gathering evidence all along. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't some naive idiot. No, I was a man who could destroy her if he wanted. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, exposed. I'd make her realize that her lies had consequences, that I'd take everything from her if I had to. That evening I called her and told her I wanted to meet. Her voice was shaky, a little defensive. She kept insisting she didn't know what I was talking about, but I kept pushing. I told her I had proof, that I knew everything, and I was coming home to talk. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and anticipation. I was ready for the showdown. When I arrived at the house that night, she was waiting in the living room. Her face was pale, eyes wide with panic, almost like she'd known this moment was coming. I looked straight at her and said, "We need to talk. I've known for a while now, about last summer, about Mike, about everything." Her lips trembled. I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy." Her voice cracked, but I could see her trying to keep calm. Her eyes darted around as if searching for an escape route. I stepped closer. "You lied to me every single day. You lied about where you were, who you were with, and you even lied about us. That's not just cheating. That's betrayal on a level I can't forgive." She looked down, silent for a moment. Then she whispered, "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." That was when I realized I had her cornered. I was about to drop the bomb, to tell her what I'd planned, but I had to wonder, how much damage could I really do? How far was I willing to go? Because I knew once I started, there was no turning back. I'd already made up my mind, and I was about to make sure she paid for every lie, every betrayal. Would you like me to continue with the next part? I could feel my fists clenched so tight, my nails pressed into my palms as I stared at her trembling form. Her face was pale, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. I knew she was trying to come up with some excuse, some way to talk her way out of this. But I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. I'd heard enough lies. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to see it in my eyes. "You think a simple apology is going to fix this?" I said, my voice low but steady. "You've been lying to me for months. You've been sneaking around, hiding things, cheating on me with my best friend. Do you even realize how much you've screwed up, or do you just not care?" She swallowed hard, trying to find words. "It was a mistake. It meant nothing, I swear. I was confused. I didn't mean for it to happen." I was drunk or just lost. Please, I love you. I shook my head, feeling a surge of rage. Love, after all this, you think saying those words makes everything okay? You think I'm just going to forgive you like it's some kind of slip-up? I took a step closer, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. No, this isn't about forgiveness. This is about justice. The room felt heavy, thick with tension. She looked down at her hands, trembling, then finally looked up at me. What do you want? Just tell me. That's when I knew I had to go all the way. I've been planning this in my head for hours, and now I was finally ready. I wanted her to see that her actions had consequences. I wanted her to realize how deeply she'd hurt me and that I wasn't just going to walk away. I want you to understand something, I said. You're not just a woman who cheated. You're a woman who lied to my face for months, who used me and manipulated my trust. And I don't think I can ever look at you the same way again. Oh, here's what's going to happen. You're going to pack your bags, you're going to leave this house tonight, and you're not coming back. Her eyes widened. You can't be serious, please. I cut her off. I can't be with someone who's dishonest, who's been sleeping with my best friend behind my back. You want to lie and cheat, fine, but I won't be a part of it anymore. She started crying then, deep, shuddering sobs. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just lost. Please don't do this. Give me a chance to fix it. I looked at her, feeling every ounce of anger and disappointment boiling inside me. There's nothing to fix. What's broken is trust, and you destroyed it. I paused, then added, you should start packing. I want you gone by morning, and don't bother trying to call me. I won't answer. She nodded slowly, her face streaked with tears. She reached out, trying to grab my arm, but I stepped back. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I turned and walked out of the room, hearing her muffled crying behind me. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the dark, feeling the cold weight of what I'd just done. I knew I'd just cut off the woman I'd loved for over a decade. The woman I thought I knew. Now she was just a stranger, a liar, a cheat. And I was left with the aftermath. The next morning, I went through her things, making sure she had everything. Her clothes, her jewelry, her phone. I put them all in a box, then handed her the keys to the house. You're not welcome here anymore, I told her coldly. Take what you want, but don't come back, ever. She looked at me with pleading eyes, but I didn't care. My stomach was tight, my palms sweaty. Every part of me wanted to scream, but I kept it inside. I knew that if I let my anger out, I'd lose control. Instead, I just handed her the keys and watched her walk out the door for good. As she left, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd taken back control, yes, but at what cost? Every step she took away felt like a punch to my chest. I'd lost my wife, but I'd gained my dignity. Or at least I told myself that. Now I sit here writing this out, trying to make sense of everything. The betrayal, the pain, the revenge. It's a dark road, but I know one thing: I won't be that naive man again. I've learned that trust is fragile, and sometimes it's better to cut your losses early. Because if you don't, someone else will do it for you, and it'll be a hell of a lot worse. If you want me to continue with the next part, just say so. The house felt empty the moment she drove off, like the walls had lost their voice. For hours I just sat there, staring at the door she just walked out of, feeling a strange mixture of emptiness and relief, like I'd just survived a storm but was left with the wreckage. I knew I'd done the right thing, but the hollow ache in my chest told me otherwise. Still, I was determined. No more lies, no more pretending to be okay when I was. Over the next few days, I started piecing things together. The evidence I'd gathered was damning enough, but I needed to understand how deep her lies ran. I began digging into her phone, her emails, her social media, anything that could give me a clearer picture of her affair. I wasn't just looking for proof, I was looking to solidify my resolve. I wanted no doubts, no second guessing. What I found was worse than I expected. Messages from Mike, hidden in long threads full of flirtation and promises. Photos, some she thought were private, that revealed her in ways she never intended. Even more frustrating was how she tried to delete some of the evidence, but I'd already saved everything. I knew she'd been careless, thinking she was smarter than everyone else, but I had her beat. One night, as I sat in the dark, I realized I needed to take control of the situation beyond just ending her stay here. I wanted her to see the damage she'd caused, to understand she couldn't escape her actions so easily. So I started crafting a plan, something that would make her regret every lie, every betrayal. I reached out to Mike's wife. It was a calculated move, and I knew it could go either way. I needed her to hear what I knew she deserved to hear it from me, not from some email or sneaky message. I told her everything from the first suspicion to the explicit photos. I laid it all out, making sure she understood her husband's role, her own. It was a brutal conversation, and I could tell she was stunned, hurt, angry. When I found out, I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I told her. I loved Lisa. I trusted her. I thought we had a good life. But she was lying to my face, sleeping with my best friend behind my back. I want you to know I'll never forgive her for this. Her voice was thick with emotion. You're right to be angry. I can't believe he did this either, but I don't want revenge on her. I just want to figure out how to move past this. I nodded, feeling my jaw tight. Revenge? No, I've already taken care of that in my own way. But I want her to see that she can't just lie to everyone and get away with it. That's why I'm planning to make her regret ever crossing me. I want her to understand what betrayal really costs. That's when I realized I'd been holding back. I've been thinking about revenge like some petty retaliation. But what I really wanted was for her to see the damage she'd caused, to understand that her actions had consequences beyond just losing her marriage. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, to understand she'd been caught, exposed. Over the next week, I set everything in motion. I started by deleting her from my social media, blocking her from my contacts. Then I began spreading the truth in small, controlled ways. I told a few close friends, people I trusted, not to broadcast it widely but enough that she'd start to feel the walls closing in. The gossip would spread, her reputation would take a hit. I also contacted a private investigator I knew from work, someone discreet, who could follow her if she tried to make a move. I wasn't going to let her run away from the fallout. I wanted her to see that her lies had consequences, that she couldn't just brush this off and go on with her life as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, I kept my distance. No more calls, no texts. I was letting her stew in her own mess. I wanted her to realize that her world was crumbling, that her carefully crafted lies had come crashing down. She'd betrayed me, yes, but I was going to make sure she paid in ways she never imagined. One night, I received an anonymous message. It was a screenshot of her social media profile, now visibly linked to Mike and some of her hidden messages. Whoever sent it knew what they were doing. It was a clear warning. Her reputation was in trouble. I smiled bitterly as I read it. The hunt was on, and I'd set the trap. Standing back, watching her world unravel, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. I'd done what I needed to do. No more hiding, no more secrets. I'd made her see she couldn't lie her way out of this mess. The damage was done, and she'd have to face it. Now I just had to wait and see how she'd react when she finally realized everything was out in the open. I had planted the seeds. I'd made sure she'd never feel safe again. That's when I knew I'd won. Or at least, I'd made her lose enough that she'd truly understand what betrayal costs. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The silence after she left was deafening. I didn't sleep that night, just stared at the empty space where she'd stood, replaying everything. My stomach was tight, my jaw clenched, and my mind kept circling back to how easily she'd betrayed me. I knew I'd done everything I could to make her pay, but I also knew this wasn't over. Revenge is a process, and I was just getting started. Over the next few days, I stayed busy, but the truth was I was waiting for her to come crawling back, or at least to reach out. I'd made sure her reputation was damaged just enough to make her realize she crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I'd spread whispers, let people see the hints, the clues she'd left behind. It was a slow burn, but I knew it would work. One afternoon, I finally got a text. Not from her, but from someone I didn't expect, Mike's wife. She was furious, crying, and demanding answers. She accused me of spreading rumors, of ruining her marriage, but I wasn't having any of it. I told her I didn't care about her accusations, that I'd given her all the facts and she could decide her next move. She's not going to get away with this, I wrote. She betrayed her vows, lied to everyone, and I won't pretend it didn't happen. She's going to pay, trust me. Her reply was bitter. You're right about one thing, she screwed up. But you're just as bad spreading rumors and trying to destroy her. I hope you're happy with what you've done. I didn't reply. I knew I'd already won this. Round, her words showed she was starting to crack. She was trying to hold on to her marriage, to her life, but I could see it slipping away. That's when I realized the best revenge wasn't just making her feel guilty. It was making her realize she'd lost everything. Meanwhile, I kept my distance. No calls, no texts. Just living my life pretending I was unaffected. But inside, I was plotting my final move. I'd made her realize she couldn't hide, couldn't run from her mistakes. But I had one last step, something that would crush her completely. Late one night, I drove to her office building and left a small package on her desk. Inside was a handwritten letter, simple but cold, along with her own keys to the house. I wanted her to know I still had control. The letter read, "You thought you could lie and cheat without consequences. You thought I'd never find out. Well, here's your wake-up call. The house is officially off limits. Whatever you take, whatever you do, know that I'm watching. And the next time I hear about you trying to manipulate or lie again, there will be no coming back. Remember that." I watched her face when she found the package from across the street. Her eyes widened as she read the note, then her hands trembled. It was satisfying to see her finally realize I wasn't going to let her forget or escape. I wanted her to know she'd been caught, exposed, and that her world was crumbling. The final nail in the coffin was a simple act. I went to the courthouse, filled out the paperwork, and officially filed for divorce. I handed over the papers myself in person, making sure she saw it. I didn't want any ambiguity. Her betrayal had broken what was left of our marriage, and I was cutting ties. The courtroom was silent, tense, and I watched her sign away her rights, her future, her ability to hurt me again. When I handed her the divorce papers, I looked her in the eyes and said, "This is done. You lost everything already. You can try to pretend it's not your fault, but I know the truth, and I'll be better without you." She started crying again, but it was empty. No tears of regret, just tears of loss. I walked out feeling a strange sense of relief mixed with exhaustion. I'd done what I set out to do. I'd made her face her actions, and I'd ended things on my terms. Now it's been a few weeks. I've moved on, focused on rebuilding my life. The house is quiet, the chaos gone. I've deleted her from my life entirely. I even changed my phone number. No more lies, no more betrayal, just peace. Looking back, I realized that the best revenge isn't some grand act of destruction. It's taking back control, making her see what she lost, and moving forward without her. I don't regret what I did. It's not about revenge for revenge's sake. It's about reclaiming my dignity and peace. So if you're ever betrayed like this, remember, silence and action speak louder than words. Cut ties, expose the lies, and take control of your life. Because no one deserves to be lied to, cheated on, and left in the dark. If you want me to give one final reflection and advice, just say so. Looking back now, I realize that what I did wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity after being utterly blindsided and betrayed by the person I trusted the most. For years, I believed in that us, the life we built, the promises we made. But her actions shattered all that. I learned the hard way that sometimes trust is a fragile thing. When it's broken, you have to decide whether to mend it or cut it loose. What I want to say to anyone reading this is simple. Never ignore the tiny red flags. The subtle hints your gut tells you aren't just paranoia, they're warnings. I ignored them because I didn't want to believe she could do this, not to me. But by the time I caught her, it was already too late to undo the damage. The lesson: trust your instincts. If something feels off, investigate carefully without jumping to conclusions, but don't dismiss your feelings. And when betrayal hits hard, don't let it define you. Yes, it hurts like hell. Yes, the pain lingers. But ultimately, you're the one who controls what happens next. You can let it destroy you or use it as fuel to rebuild stronger. I chose the latter. I took control, cut out the poison, and made damn sure she understood she'd lost her shot at us. Not because I wanted revenge for revenge's sake, but because I needed to remind myself that I was still standing, still worth love, still deserving respect. My advice to anyone in this situation: don't be afraid to make the difficult choices. The truth can be painful, but it's freeing. Confront it head-on, calmly, with clarity. If you're going to walk away with your head held high, knowing you did what was necessary to protect yourself. Most importantly, don't let guilt or anger consume you. Yeah, it's tempting to lash out or duct tape over the pain with petty revenge. But real strength comes from knowing when to let go and focus on your future. I did that. I handed her the keys, filed the papers, and closed the chapter. It wasn't easy, and it still stings sometimes. But I know now that breaking free was the only way to find peace. So, if you're ever in a similar boat, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's actions. The betrayal says more about their character than yours. Take control. Confront the lies, cut the ties, and start rebuilding. Because no matter how deep the betrayal runs, you're stronger than it. And one day, you'll look back and realize that losing that person was the best thing that ever happened to finally set you free. That's my story. The pain, the planning, the fallout, and ultimately, the liberation. I hope someone out there learns from my experience. Trust is fragile, but your strength is. Never forget that.